Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight, we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies? Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, and I'm your host, Danny Whitson. Guys, we got a fantastic show lined up for you tonight. We've actually got a very familiar guest, so you may have heard of. But first, before we get into that, I got to say we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. All right, so tonight's guest, he is a familiar name to the show. Actually, he is the founder of the show, founder of TESA. He is the CEO of Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. And we're going to have some fun conversation tonight with this Mr. of the paranormal and UFO world. Let's all welcome Mr. Ryan Stacey.
Hello.
What's happening, Ryan? All right, long time no see. Been on the show. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It has been quite a while. I've been actually taking a break from all of this nonsense, and this is my first time, talking in a long time.
Well, I'm assuming that you've got some rest, right? So now you're ready to get the gears rolling again.
Yeah.
Now I know most of I'm sure a lot of the viewers and stuff, but if you don't mind, maybe some viewers may not know who the Ryan Stacey is. If you don't care to introduce yourself a little more.
Yeah. So, well, I haven't done this in a long time because I've removed myself from the drama, which I call the UFO cult world. But prior to that, and still continuing, I've been the National Director for MUFON Canada, MUFON Canada, the Chief Investigator for MUFON Canada. I was the Director of Training for MUFON Canada. I'm a private investigator for almost 20 years. I don't look it, but I'm almost 40. So I've been heavily involved in disclosure within Canada, getting declassified documents, helping with the Sky Canada project, getting information out into the public, and also studying psychogenics and paranormal activity. I created the Ultraspectrum Classification System, the Experiencer Support Association, which is what we're all a part of, whole bunch of things. And I kind of got stuck in the UFO world. I needed to pull myself out of it to figure out what I was doing for a little bit. So I've been following a bunch of things in the news and stuff, but ever since the New Jersey drones, I kind of I pulled out. I totally pulled out and took a break from the UFO side of things. But I've been investigating and working on some spiritual stuff and astrology, and trying to teach myself some other things in the other spectrum. But we can talk about anything, but I'm being completely honest. I'm not up to date. So if you want to talk about anything that's happened that you think is interesting, give me a buffer and let's chat.
Well, I mean, I've come to a lot of my own conclusions in the UFO world, and UAP, whatever you want to call it. One of the problems that I'm starting to discover is, and this is a bummer, and I'm just going to be completely honest with you. There's a lot of theater.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of theater. and it's easy to catch yourself. I mean, for this being your go-to entertainment, on YouTube. I follow stuff so much, and I follow these people who have this claim, or the Lou Elizondos, and then the Stephen Greers, and all these people now, and it's kind of become like a theater. It's a show. It's your entertainment. Now, I do think some truth has been released to the public, and I do think there are some authentic stories being told. But every podcast that you look at, any popular podcast, the Sean Ryan podcast, Joe Rogan podcast, all of them, you throw these popular podcasts out here, they have these people coming on telling these outrageous stories. I think there's something to a lot of these stories, but at the same time, you don't know. We're also living in a world to where it's clicks and views now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, we've talked about this before, Ryan, back in the day about entertainment versus the truth.
Well, that's where I kind of at. Like, I kind of didn't really tell anybody. You guys knew that I was silently kind of stepping away. Plus, I had some personal issues that I needed. I had someone pass away, but I had to deal with some family stuff. But I was getting burnt out because I've been investigating this stuff for so long, talking to so many people, trying to listen to them, trying to cater to their, I'm saying paranoia now, but their concerns and their projections, their all these things that they think, and trying to give them logical explanations. And I'm just getting tired of people not believing me when I present them facts. And then it's facts don't change. If I can prove to you that it's not a UFO, it's not a UFO. But if you still believe it, okay, I can't take that belief away from you. And I've been doing this for a long time, and it's, I let that stuff slide, and then it just started to eat at me. And then I realized, frick, man, what is wrong with these people? And then it feels culty. And then I'm sitting back and I'm watching it for a little bit before I silenced everything. And I'm like, I read the news, it makes sense. And then I see what the UFO folk can talk about. I'm like, where is the evidence of that happening? There's no evidence of that. And then it spitfires, and I just got frustrated because there's no point in me putting out the facts and the truth out there if nobody's going to care about it. I'll just do your thing and save my time and spend time with my family for a little bit. And that's exactly what I did.
And I think well, I mean, a lot of times the facts and the truth isn't always the funnest thing, no. And but now here, and I do want to clarify this. By no means do I not believe that we have been visited. That I do believe. I do believe there is another life form outside of the human race that has came to this planet. There's some things since starting this since hosting this podcast, and talking with you and with a lot of things, I've went and done my own research on some stuff, and I always used to brush off the whole Roswell incident and thought that was a bunch of garbage. And until I learned some other facts, and I saw some interviews from 80-year-old women, who stand by their story to this day. And why would an 80-year-old woman lie?
Yeah,
if she's not making. There's money. There's no incentive. She's not gaining any incentive at 80 years old. If anything, you would think somebody in your 80s would be, trying to live as right and honest as they possibly can because they ain't got much time left, what I'm saying.
So let me clarify. I gave an all statement. I basically ranted there and said all of these cases are identified. That's not true. Majority of them. I agree. There are some things that are questionable. I do not doubt for a second. I do know for a fact that there are secret machines out there and technology that's being used, and we don't know about it. I'm all for that. I'm all for trying to figure out what exactly it is. but I'm not 100% or even close to 99.9% sure that it has anything to do with extraterrestrials. At the same time, I do believe in the existence of extraterrestrials. I do believe in the existence of the paranormal and psychogenic activity, but all that stuff can't be proven in the media. That's considered the woo. So that stuff gets investigated in private. I'm more concerned about, the beings inside the craft or the beings outside the craft, the psychological effects of the human beings, the people affected, how the people are able to manipulate the phenomenon and do the psychic abilities. That's what I'm mostly interested in, but I can't prove it to the level in the science community. The science academic community don't comprehend quantum physics.
Well, here's the problem with that, okay, is I think a lot of the stuff that I think somebody, somehow, some private company has cracked the code of what they've been trying to reverse engineer for decades, since the 1930s, I do, and I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of that right now. Okay. And I think it is us. The majority of the things that you're seeing is us. Now, there were some reports of orbs that didn't make the mainstream media, and reason why, because that's a little more tougher to write off and explain. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I think there's more to when you look into the Stargate program with the remote viewing program, all this stuff that we've always been taught our whole life of being the woo-woo, that's not possible. You can't do this. There's things that actually our government have learned that the human mind and human consciousness can achieve. And I also think that opens up another door to reality, another type of reality. There is quantum physics, but then there's basic physics, and a lot of people, you start off in the basic physics world, which is just based on, our environment, guys. The laws of physics. If you went to another planet, okay, for example, I'm a magician, so an illusion is something that appears to break the laws of physics. Oh, he's levitating. Oh, this solid, these linking rings have passed through each other. It's breaking the laws of physics. Okay. Now, if I was on a planet that had hardly any gravity, it wouldn't be impressive at all if I was floating 5 feet in the air.
No.
So what I'm saying is the basic laws of physics is based on our environment. And then that's what a lot of these, a lot of scientists and stuff will base their beliefs off in the scientific method is based off where we're at. But whenever you look at reality outside of this matter verse into a more of a spiritual conscious place, it's a real thing, Yeah,
and I've come a long way in my consciousness and spiritual journey, because there's so many things that I have uncovered and that I believe wholeheartedly that goes against things that could be proven. And I can't scientifically prove it because of the way that on the material 3-dimensional level. But as I got more into, I guess, an ego death in the sense of turning within and just trying to figure out, what's out there and what's not out there, I can feel it, I can understand it, I can experience it, and I know that, and it becomes more of a faith. But that's not evidence. That's just a belief in something, and then it makes sense. But then it's it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. So then what I'm investigating on the surface doesn't match with what I'm comprehending and what I'm learning and what I'm educating myself on. I can see the evidence of these things coexisting, but we can't prove definitively in the 3-dimensional world that the other one does, except through the experiencers, except through stories. If somebody is able to see something that isn't there, we can't measure that.
Well, and I mean, you can't measure it not through the scientific method. No. And you're right. You cannot. But now here's the thing: is I tell everybody, like the chair you're sitting in now at one time didn't exist at all in this world, but it existed in someone's mind.
Yes.
It was an idea.
Yes.
So, and I'm not sure, it may have been Plato that said, if you can imagine it, either it has to already exist or it can exist.
Yeah.
So, and that's a level of, like I said, that's another level of reality. And the problem is, though, is like when people dismiss things as not being real, we have grown accustomed to this saying, and we've grown accustomed to this belief to where people say, it's just in your imagination. Well, okay, maybe it is, but that doesn't mean it's not real.
Exactly.
So, and that's whenever we look on to, if you want to call it interdimensional beings, if you want to call it whatever you want to call it, there is something to this, though. There is absolutely something to these people who have experiences with these other type of life forms. And I've just heard too many doggone people tell the same stories. And I know you have too.
Well, and that's the thing, where it's the source too. Like, even if we go back to the technology that the government has that appears to break the laws of physics, well, where did they get the idea from it? Are we just getting smarter, or was it reverse engineered, depending on how far you want to go back? And like all this stuff, I burnt out. I'm being fully honest. I just get frustrated with it because I spent my whole career in this three-dimensional space. And then now that I'm awakened, in a sense, in the spiritual sense, that now that I'm aware that all this deception and all this cult-like behavior and all of this lying and all this money tracking and all of this stuff inside the whole world, not knowing that trusting the systems to fix it, being involved with disclosure, trying to be kind to the government, still not getting answers, still getting beat around the bush. I got angry. I got frustrated. It was just and I just needed to take a break. And then I started to focus on myself. And as I focused on myself, I started feeling great about it. And then now I want to come back into it. And I do not have any interest in touching UFOs, but I still want to look into the people and the phenomenon and how it's affecting them, because I do think there's something else going on in another space. Proving that is going to be a little bit harder, but that's okay, because I needed to accept that in the three-dimensional world, I'm still nobody. Even though I did a whole bunch of work that nobody's ever seen, this group is probably the only group that actually acknowledges the work that I've done. And I've been trying to get that work out there, and it continues to get buried. So fine.
I think the problem, okay, let me say this. Okay. First of all, let's toss this up here from Sean Drew, who's very active over here. Sean's got a good statement that he put here. Chris, pull that up there for me there. There are 10 types of beings visiting the planet, those who understand binary and those who don't. Great statement. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. And I mean, and see, these are the stories I've heard. This is something, this is common by individual people, so it makes me wonder, so there's something going on. There is something there in existence with what Sean said there. And so, I mean,
but we don't have control of it.
No,
that's the thing that frustrates me. So my focus now, as I start to get back into the groove of things and the cases and whatnot, is just trying to privately deal with this stuff and get into the psyche, into the mind, ask people to draw what they're seeing, compare their drawings, compare how they're able to tap into it, what they were doing, because there's certain data that needs to be collected in terms of the method, because everybody can reach consciousness a different way.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm discovering that those are methods, those are approaches, and we can all do different exercises to stretch the same muscle kind of type deal. So now I'm at a point where I want to study people who have these experiences in a controlled way and then compare it, because I know that our minds can't be read, but I can control the samples in that way where I know these people don't know each other. And if they're drawing the same thing or they're having similar experiences, then we can have a fine-tuned explanation of something going on. And then with that data, you can then hop back into the disclosure thing. The information that they're providing right now is fully redacted, and you don't have any room to wiggle with. Now,
and I don't think they're ever going to.
Well, here's the thing. You also get claims like from Paul Hellyer, who talks about alien races, and he's seen them, and he's worked.
Why would? And see, this is what gets me. He's not the only one that's. Yeah. He's not the only one that's done this either. Who was the? He was for Israel's.
Yeah, I think they've both done that. Where
they've done that. You know, I mean, they aren't the only people who.
Well, here's the thing. What I was trying to get at is I have been sitting on Hellyer's files for a long time. I've been also sitting on Stanton Freeman's files for a long time, and they talk about these kinds of things. But they get buried. There's so much crap going on right now. If I make one post, it ain't going to go anywhere because too many people are focused on the lies, focused on the distractions. There's too many people sucked in. I've seen people that I've worked with in this industry that like every single one of them, except for you, except for Chris, hasn't all got on that ship. And they hesitated. They fought. And then all of a sudden they did. And why? Because it was popular and it got ratings and made them money. And everybody that I know that was on my team has sold out.
Yeah. There's this is the problem. This is the problem. And you're right. And it sucks, but we live in a world to where money runs everything. And you do know the old saying, and this is somebody let the cat out of the bag a very long time ago, folks. And it's nothing new. And you have heard this before, but it's called follow the money. And you will always find your answer. And I don't know any of these guys personally. I don't know Dr. Stephen Greer, and I don't know Lou Elzonda. I did read his book. But the problem is this is like I'm hearing the same old song constantly, the same old tune from these guys, and I'm like, what is it you're trying to push? Are they paying you to come on their show? Are they, what's, is this just a nice little requirement for you?
They put status equals credibility. Military witness equals credibility. Lawyer equals credibility. You can be a lawyer, you can be a military person, and you can still be stupid. Yeah. You can be a university executive and work at a university like Chris Rutowski, put out a survey every year, and it's still wrong. It's still inaccurate. But people believe that it's true, and they dismiss looking into it because they think that's status, because majority of the people that like it don't have that, and they have that belief that you need that to be credible, and that's bull. Man, this is the biggest rant I've had without swearing. This is so hard. I'm fighting it.
Oh, yeah, it can be. Trust me. Well, here, I do want to backtrack on somebody that I thought was, even some of his stories are still a little ways out there, but I want to say this. I do want to backtrack on this guy a little bit. And he does have a book out too. So he may be one of them too. But Chris Bledsoe. And as wow, woo city, baby. But here's the thing. One thing he made when you do listen to this guy, okay? When you do listen to this guy, he is at such peace with his stories. Mm-hmm. I think. Well, this is what this is the thing. I think Chris is. I think he really has had those experiences, and I think now I think he may be more sensitive to the conscious spiritual world than what your everyday hustle and bustling person is.
There's a few things about that. There's nothing wrong with making a little bit of profit for your time and effort. It's your story. People like it. They want you to make a book. They want you to speak about it. Okay, well, it's my time away from my family. I'll share it with you. Give me some money. That kind of transaction is acceptable. But at some point, you get to a point where you realize, wow, if I continue selling this story, I'll continue to make money. And then I make enough money off of this story, or not enough, I need to make more. But the story's old. Well, I got to add to it. And then they continue to embellish.
Yeah.
It can start off with something. Then they, depending on the money. The other thing with Bledsoe, is he also has a religious approach. And there's nothing wrong with tying. Well, I'm saying there's nothing wrong. There is concerns with that, but in his perspective, it's okay because that he's mixing his belief with his experiences, and that happens a lot.
Yes.
Here's the thing in terms of marketing 101, you want to go after the largest audience popular, and how big is Christianity and Catholicism?
Well, I mean, there's politics, God. That's the two biggest.
Ratings go up.
Yeah.
Here's a fun fact. Did you know that Jesus is also Satan?
I don't know anything about that. I don't know. I'm a fan. I am a fan of Jesus. I'm not a religious person, but I am a big fan of what Jesus said.
Same person, just good and evil. You can't have one without the other.
So that's true too. I guess you're right. And then if you want to look at human nature, if you can accept what real human nature is, is there such thing as good and right? I mean, good and bad. If you can sit back and accept what real human nature is, and there's things about us that are disgusting, gross, and despicable. Okay.
Well, we have to remove judgment.
So if you can sit back, so it's weird. But my big thing on Jesus is I really dug what Jesus said, and I think he was misinterpreted. I think he's still misinterpreted to this day by a lot of people who follow him. But I think
what he represents,
I think, but basically, I think Jesus was trying to tap into the consciousness, live forever type thing, and a lot of people, unfortunately, aren't smart. But
well, it depends on how you read it. The Bible's perspective too. So if you take all of those things, your heaven is in your mind. In order for you heard of the Christos or the Christ consciousness, the Kundalini energy, all that stuff flowing through. In order to reach heaven, you got to go through all these things. So there's a study that shows that everything in the Bible is true, except Jesus is not external; it's internal, and then it's yourself. Everything that's happening, as above, so below. So within, so without. And you can apply all that context, which makes sense because we are God, we are Jesus, we are all this other stuff. That is also paranormal because
absolutely it is.
Or outside. But what that does is instead of looking external, looking up in outer space where the UFOs are, and you start taking a biblical approach and studying under, look into that a little further, then you understand that everything like that can't be possible under God's law. So you can't be fully religious and fully not religious. And if you get halfway in between, you get frustrated and mad like me.
Well, and there's so much to, at the same time, we can't really know. There's a lot of stuff we can't really know. And, but let's do this. Here we go, man. We have, the first part of this show has already flown by, folks. Guys, thank you. If you got any questions for Ryan, crank them up here. Our man behind the scenes, Too Nice to Be Mean, Mr. Chris Green, will get these questions up for us. But yeah, definitely if you got any good questions, send them here to Ryan, man. He will do his best. He is a fantastic private investigator. But we've got to cut to a break here. We got to shout out to some of our sponsors here. So guys, hang tight. We'll be right back after these messages.
Are you an experiencer of unknown phenomena? Do you consider yourself a paranormal journalist? Do you investigate strange sightings in the sky? Or do you study the expansion of the human mind? You are not alone. Welcome to TESA, a one-stop shop that offers multiple services to experiencers. Place where we can work together. Place for us to learn. Place for us to grow. A place for us to change the world. Join us today.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
It's not the strongest species, nor the most intelligent that survive, but the ones that are most adaptive to change. Join us for Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, live on YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't miss live interviews on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, the latest declassified Canadian UFO documents, or an inside look at groundbreaking investigations. Subscribe on YouTube today for free.
If you want to really find out about Ryan, ask him about all his work and UFOs in Ontario.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada.
I have used his research extensively. He's much more than a one-dimensional character. He's an authority on UFOs and investigating them, Meg.
Wow!
Really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. For starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them.
He would come out with an annual report on not only the number of sightings, but how many were unexplained, unknown, or just, nothing could be said. What caused
it? If you
it?
want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
All right, guys, we are back here with our very own TESA founder, CEO of Blacklight Investigative, Mr. Ryan Stacey. All right, Ryan. So we're going to pick on a topic here. We got a new topic we're going to talk about, and I'm going to tell you guys straight up, I don't believe in this, and it's the old flat Earth thing, man. You lose me, Ryan, on flat Earth. I believe I believe we live on a round planet, and I believe for some reason there's something about everything being round versus being flat that just makes a lot more sense to me.
So, yeah, I know. I love this topic because it's so controversial and it makes everybody cringe. And the reason why I like going back to this is because it gets compared to everything else. What shape the Earth is irrelevant to our existence. But people like to argue about it, but yet it can't be proven. Can't be proven 100% because you got to trust NASA, who is also lying about our UFOs.
Well, not necessarily. I think there is real science. I mean,
Well, sure. There's lots of science to explain it either way. Either perspective has the science to prove its existence. But in order for us to prove it that we're not astronauts, we'd have to go up in space to counter that. So
Even when you look at
for us to prove,
you look at the moon. The moon's round.
it's circular. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so,
Yeah.
and I mean, and think about this. Let's just break this down, okay?
So what if the moon is local, like within our system? That's the argument.
I think
smaller, it's within our system. Same with the sun. Equal height, equal size, equal thing. Those are the theories.
So, I mean, what are you saying? I mean, like, the sun's round too. I mean, I think everything,
Right, because they're inside our system. Outside the outer space, according to Flat Earth, all the other luminaries, the lights are higher up. The sun and the moon are within that dome structure, according to Flat Earth theory. So not external. The solar system or the heliocentric system involves everybody going around the sun, which can be true. But if earlier beliefs was that everything evolved around the earth, that's a difference of perspective.
see, I don't believe that.
Well, you don't have to believe it. No, it's just something that's also controversial. Now, the Bible, which is also used to reference Anunnaki and UFOs and extraterrestrials. If you read the Bible specifically, the Bible talks about a flat Earth, talks about a non-rotational flat plane with hills and valleys. And it explains all the things, and that's where the flat earthers get their knowledge from the Bible. So they take that as gospel. But then we have to talk about the Bible. So the Bible was written by man and has been edited in all these other things, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't necessarily believe that the earth is flat, but I'm interested in working with the flat earthers because they also are very smart and intelligent, and they also know that NASA lies, and they have evidence against it. And that evidence coming together means that there's got to be some sort of parallel.
Well, see, okay, NASA. I'm not. This has nothing to do with NASA. Okay, now this comes back to the basic physics here on Earth. Basic physics, not quantum physics, none of the fun physics, the boring physics. Okay, it can be proven that we live on a round planet. But now I'm not a physicist, but I do know it can be proven by basic physics that we're on a round rock.
So,
and just based off of, if you look how the sun sets, if you look how, but there's also, and like I said, I didn't show up with anything prepared to have this debate, but if I did, I could have done a little more research on this, but I promise you can find some compelling evidence
on Google
that we know by physicists, that can present you some compelling evidence that we do live on a round rock.
There's lots of
it's not perfectly round.
No, it could be a combination of both. There's lots of evidence out there that proves that aliens exist. And that we are extra, and that we have special abilities, and we can. And there's lots of scientific evidence out there, but yet it's not mainstream. So,
and something else to take consideration. Okay, there's something, and I don't know why. I don't have the answer why, but there's something about to the round shape and in this reality.
Yeah.
Like, okay, when you look at the top structure of the human. The human body, okay, the human temple is the top structure would be your head, which is round. Your eyes, where you take in light, your eyeballs, they're round. There's a lot of roundness to human beings. So I think this reality is based on a round structure in a lot of ways. So
that's confirmation bias.
Well, a little bit, but so is using the Bible as a reference.
Right.
Because a Bible is based on one's chosen religious belief system, which to me, to be completely honest with you, I'm a fan of Jesus, but the Bible has no significance whatsoever to me.
Yeah, so I was raised Catholic and Christian, and I was an altar boy for a little bit, and I was going to do Sunday school. I was going to be a priest. There's like a whole different side of me there, way back in the day. never believed it wholeheartedly. If I believed it wholeheartedly, I'd still be that. And I started asking questions and things didn't make sense. All these things can exist. It's just the reason why I'm fascinated with it, because it's just like everything else. Some of it is based on truth and some of it is not, and it has been massaged. Trying to figure that out. And what I like to do is try to figure out, it's almost like if you're a martial artist like Bruce Lee's JKD, he took all the good things from all the martial arts and got rid of all the garbage. So in that same type of approach, the flat earthers are right about some things. They have to be, because if there's no truth, then they wouldn't be able to convince anybody of anything. Just like in the UFO community, they got to be right about something, and that's that there's secret machines out there and the government's hiding. The lie could be the fact that they're connected to extraterrestrials. But the thing is what if these things are connected? The flat earthers don't believe in UFOs. They do not believe that aliens exist. They think it's Project Blue Being, and it's all a whole bunch of fake stuff. Now that's also a belief here on the UFO side, that we think it's bogus stuff. And so there's also those things, but yet we don't touch the sciences. We don't cross-pollinate it but we share beliefs. And where do those beliefs come from? The other thing that I find that's interesting in this non-rotational Earth model, or the geocentric model, is the concept that the flat earthers think that they're hiding land. And if they're hiding land beyond the wall or whatever, then they're hiding resources. Then you look at the world and we're all struggling and we're having issues with resources, tariffs even right now in real freaking time. All this stuff happening. Meanwhile, you're telling me that there's room for more land that's not being happening. So they might be right about that argument, but the Earth could still be a globe. And it could be a large plane and a smaller and a bigger circle. It could be both.
Well, you got to go back to this. Okay, you got to back to, yeah. I mean, the flat Earth theory has been around way before the internet. But we all know the whole story with the Columbus and flat Earth. But let's go back to this, because one thing human beings love is entertainment. Like I said, when we talked about some of our in the UFO community, it being theater. There's a lot of theater out there on topics, and we love conspiracies. Exactly, it's interesting. It's a lot more interesting than your day job. It's a lot more interesting than a lot of things that people's life are just super boring. So why not? It would be fun to believe if this was what was really going on, if everything appears to be different. And yes, I'm going to be honest with you. Things are different than the way they appear. Bingo. That's a winner. You are right. Mm-hmm. But not everything's a conspiracy.
No.
Not everything is.
What makes the flat Earth theory appealing to the audience, to make it more manipulative, is the fact that it is the ultimate lie of lies. If you can prove that we're stuck in a closed system and space doesn't actually exist, then we got a whole bunch of problems, and people revolt. It's better for us to be sold on religion and believe that we can escape this place than a truth, according to the flat earthers, that we're stuck here. Because if we knew that we were stuck here, we wouldn't work and do good to our neighbors thinking we're going to go to heaven. So there's a lot of other things going on at play that makes it think that there's a lie somewhere. And somebody's lying.
Of course somebody's lying. I'm a fan of the God of your own universe theory. Okay? And actually that's kind of what I live by. And I really try this. And I've said this several times on this show, but on a conscious level, okay, every person who has ever met Ryan Stacey in their entire life, there's a version of Ryan they have. There's Ryan the good guy. There's Ryan the jerk. Okay? So, same thing with Danny Whitson. There's Danny the good guy. There's Danny Whitson the jerk. Okay? I try, and by no means am I perfect at this, but I try every day to create the best version of Danny Whitson for someone. Okay?
Yes.
So in their conscious reality, that version of me exists. Okay, so there's an infinity, an uncountable amount of versions of you that exist in this conscious reality. Okay, and I think whenever we leave one reality, we pop into the other reality. And the odds of there being a positive version of you grant you closer to being to what Jesus was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Live through me for eternal life. Live like I do, basically. Be like me.
What would Jesus do?
Exactly. If you break it down just like that. So this is my point is I try to create as many of those versions of me into the universe, into the multiverse as I possibly can. So that's my goal. Now imagine somebody like Hitler who is going to exist as an evil person, because that version so that guy, that would be the definition of hell. Every time, every dimension, wherever he croaks, he's popping right back into this evil, bad place. Mm-hmm. So, and it's all created based off his actions. So this is kind of my point there. When it comes to that's my belief system. I'm the master of my own universe, and as long as I love He-Man too. Shout out to He-Man. I have the power. But I mean, so it's something that I kind of like to roll off of, So if I want to believe in this, if I want to believe in that, guess what? I can believe in it.
And you can, and I appreciate you for that. I have my beliefs and other things too that are completely more wild than what we were just talking about. And just
it got a little wild and deepy there. So.
Yeah, but just because I talk about it doesn't mean I believe in it. It means I'm curious. I'm understanding it because there's something there. I'm trying to find the truth in, and there are some truth, but it's complicated. When you threaten if that was true, that means everything that we've done is a lie, and that will affect us mentally really hard. So a lot of people have a hard time transitioning through that or comprehending that. And it is the lie of all lies. And that's what makes it appealing to those who are angry all the time, that want to stick it to the government because they're feeling on these lies. And UFO is starting to become like that. And, and I'm trying to find some positive stuff in my life. And in order to do that, I had to remove myself. Now, that's good for me. I am the man of my own universe. And I had to step away from this because I was getting sucked into this cult too. I was feeling the angry. I was becoming angry. I was doing all these things. And then I have to step back, and it's like, whoa, majority of them are pretty lost individuals. I'm glad I found myself again. Now here I am doing a first podcast in a long time, not talking about anything I've ever talked about before because I've wiped my conscience pretty well clear. And I'm trying to reinvent myself. I'm still the skeptical sleuth, but I got to look into something else. I got to look somewhere else because
there's plenty to look in.
It's all the same stuff. And yeah, there's definitely plenty. But what I haven't touched on and I've been experimenting with is some of the spiritual stuff. Astrology is something I'm starting to get used to. I've been pulling cards with a little tarot deck, just trying to introduce myself to the esoteric stuff. And I learned a lot of that stuff through Freemasonry as well. I'm a Knights Templar and things like that. But and there's a lot of esoteric studies there. And that all has to do with consciousness and stuff like that. And I find that stuff fascinating. But that's all in my head. That keeps me here. That keeps me grounded. And then I forget about the external world. But here's the thing. I made a promise to help all these people. And that's why we have the Experiencers Support Association, to help these other people. I'm just trying to figure out how I can help them because the way that I have been helping them isn't working. And I don't want to step away from the UFO stuff. I want to get into the nuances and the scientific and the, and try to quantify the stuff that can't be quantified and help in that department. But again, that's just woo.
But you know what though, with the woo, I'm sorry, I threw it there. I think I do honestly believe there has been some truth given. Yeah. But I don't know if it was a disorganized campaign by the deep state or whoever you want to call it or whatever you want to call it. disorganize everything. And, you know, like I've said this several times, you know, the best way to hide the truth is to roll it in a ball of bull crap, you know, and that's exactly what I believe they've done. You know, we have been told the truth, folks. We have been, but it's been covered up and layered with a bunch of
or cover it up,
And I mean, I do think there's a supernatural paranormal element to the truth too. There's something outside
is it paranormal? Is it just us being normal? That's what's also being.
Well, it is. It's normal. It's normal, but
we have these abilities to do these great things. We can see another dimension. We call them ghosts. Maybe that's wrong, right?
It is. I think it is.
Our mind, right? We can do that. There's science there, and that's normal. Why? Because that's how we were made. But we were brought up to be told that that's paranormal. They burned witches at the stake. There's racism out there. All this stuff was created out of fear because back in the day, some dark-colored skin female was doing magic on top of a pyramid. And now all of those things, I have to be careful how I worded that, but all of those things got suppressed. And now all of those things are starting to come back, but they're different and modified. But what that means is from the very beginning, we were powerful beings.
Yeah. Well, I believe. God. Yeah. Exactly. That goes back to my whole belief system, my point, you know.
And that's
we're much more. We're much more powerful than what we realize. And you know, back not so much on the flat Earth theory, but I mean, you know, I tell people this all the time. You know, because a lot of times people get wrapped up in this fake artificial world that we've created for ourselves, money, job, titles, these things that aren't real. They're not real. You know, it's made up. Dude, it's totally made up, okay? Mm-hmm. But you ever just walk outside and you look around and you just say, what the heck is going on? What is this? And the same thing, even with space, like you have your astrophysicists that they know a lot of the science and a lot of the math and a lot of stuff they broke down, but still they really don't have an answer. Mm-hmm. They don't have an answer to anything. You're like, what is this giant dark mass? What is going on? What is this? And I mean, but a lot of us, we don't pay attention to that. You know, we cover it up with our basic everyday life that we live, which is, you know, makes no sense. You know, it's not real. And what is real, we don't pay attention to most of the time. But I you know, let me throw this out here too, because I think this is what do you believe in this? Because I think this is real. I don't know why, but there's something real to this, and it's stupid. But have you heard of it's not stupid because I feel it too, but have you ever heard of grounding?
Yeah.
You walk outside barefooted, folks, on good old Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And you almost get a positive feel. You feel better.
You're saying that doesn't happen?
No, that does happen.
Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yeah.
And as silly as it sounds, though, I mean, I was looking into that and I was like, you know, there's something to this because I've had that sensation before, you know, walking out and being grounded to earth, being barefooted.
Well, that's how it used to be. Everyone was connected, you know.
Yeah.
And there's lots of things that you can feel in the actual world. Like we're in kill boxes. There's technology all over the place that prevents us from actually expressing ourselves as energetic beings. I have a grounding sheet that I use while watching TV. I have a grounding sheet in my bed. You know, I have a hard time falling asleep because I have a lot of restless energy, all that other stuff. As soon as I put skin on that grounding mat, I fall asleep within 20 minutes because it takes the energy. That's science. I'm falling asleep. It's not spiritual. It just means I'm an energetic being and I'm somehow transmuting the energy. It's like when you do electrical work, you got to make sure you ground to send the extra energy. Grounding is real, which means the earth is electrical. There's a negative and a positive. you don't want to get back into flat earth stuff, but the sun and the moon are negative and positive. And as they spin around, they create that vortex. And that's how you get your magnetic field. And that's how grounding actually works. And grounding can only work on a geocentric model. So there's certain things, I guess I can't say it only works, but it so there's parallels there where certain things can exist in different models, but there's not enough things that exist in all models. So we're still nowhere close to understanding what's really going on. And as smart as we think we are to coming to the answers, I don't think we're anywhere close, and we're going to find the answers within. And now that I've done some work and worked on myself internally, the hardest thing that I have right now is coming back into this same space. And that's why I'm going to try and come back in a different way. And we're obviously going to have some chats offline to figure out what's actually needed, what people really want. I liked when you asked me that question when I popped in for the 5 minutes. I did some research. I came back and I answered that for you. I like doing that. I don't want to investigate random things because random people are upset about stuff. I want to investigate the things that matter within my circle. So keeping my circle smaller, I should be able to do what I do good and get that positive reinforcement.
Well, let's do this, Ryan. This has been a fantastic episode, and you've been a great guest. We've had some really great conversation. But real quick, plug something here for the listeners and the viewers if they want to check out more about Ryan Stacey.
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/The Skeptical Sleuth. I'm everywhere. You just Google my name, and you can see. You can actually start with season 1 of this podcast and see how everything I just said was not like that. Watch me come through this, have my come to Jesus moment, and here I am now, living long enough to become the villain. But I promise you it's just a phase, but I'm really happy. And I'm really glad that you are doing this show. And I'm sorry that I'm desensitized to the UFO stuff.
Well, I tell you what. All right.
I'm not feeling it.
Okay, well, it's all right. We will talk more. Ryan, I got stuff I got to plug before we get out of here, brother, so I will talk to you soon. Guys, thank you so much for your great questions this evening. Sean, Lisa, you guys were fantastic. Thank you guys so much. All right, Ryan, we will talk to you later. Peace. All right, guys, thank you so much for checking out this episode. Our very own TESA founder, Ryan Stacey. Guys, head over to theexperiencersupport.org and you can check out some of Ryan's investigations, some great articles there. Show us some love on Patreon at Heed the World. Make a little donation. That'll get you access to some very interesting articles. If you guys have not done so, like and share the podcast Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. We are streaming on every platform you can think of. You can find us everywhere. Please come back next week. We'll be back next week. I don't know who our guest is next week, but I promise you it'll be a good one and a very interesting one. And like always, folks, we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM New Orleans. Guys, I'm Danny Whitson. Keep the paranormal normal. See you next week. All right, that does it for this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. A big shout out for tonight's awesome guest, and a bigger shout out for everyone who tuned in. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And like always, be sure to stay curious, heed the world, and keep the paranormal normal. I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and this has been Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.